All right, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Leading Crypto. I am CBO and joined today by the beautiful Burr Max over there in Dubai. Today we have a pretty simple update for you here today, right? So, I mean, the market is essentially just the thumbnail states, standing still, so to speak, in waits for the FOMC meeting. More than likely, we had that nice run up last week. Where we got a lot of excitement into the market. Once again, I think everybody really assumed that we would continue on from there. And I think it was about Wednesday or Thursday when we really started having that nice move up towards about 21,000 Bitcoin. Revisited over the weekend, but essentially have just been range bound ever since. So tend to see moves in that capacity upwards as we await and lead up to some of these major events. We do have big policy meetings this week. We have some major fib times. Obviously, this is the brand new day, brand new month. I'm sorry. So happy November, everyone, as well. So there's some really key inflection points that are going to occur throughout this next few weeks here. So always interesting, always exciting. Definitely a time to be paying attention when the market is kind of trending sideways, getting prepared for the next move. And today we're going to cover a bit of Bitcoin. Obviously, we're going to take a look at the DXY. We have a very special guest coming on later today. We're actually going to do an additional episode today at noon. So Gareth Soloway is going to be joining us at noon today, as well as Magic Internet Money. He's not on at the moment, but he'll be on today later with Gareth at noon. So be sure to tune in for that. Take a look at Ethereum, and still everybody's pick of the week is Dogecoin, right? So it's still having some movement there. So we'll be taking a look at pretty much all of those and a little bit of other things as well. So number one question of the morning has to be, though, Max, how are you today, sir?
I'm very well, my friend. Very well indeed.
What's it like over in Dubai right now? It's like 4 p.m., right?
Yeah, well, no, it's
7
6
p.m.
p.m.
Yeah.
6 p.m. Plus 6. It's good. The temperature's getting better here. It's not as unbearable as it has been, but it's still warm in the day for sure. So,
Perfect.
I wore a hoodie this morning when I walked my dog, but then I was instantly regretting it after 10 minutes.
Walking the wiener, man. How is I can't imagine having a dog on like a building that you're like 80 stories up. Like the wait for that elevator or the run down the stairs has got to be atrocious.
No, he's pretty well trained. He's done it for 3 years now, so he goes at separate times of the day. So he's
Just put the patch of grass on the patio and you're good to go.
I would never do that.
Perfect. Well, let's get started. So I'll go ahead. I'll take a quick look at Bitcoin, and then I'm interested to see what you're looking at Bitcoin. I mean, honestly, if you've been paying attention to these daily streams with us, yesterday, Monday, what's it actually Tuesday? So yeah, yesterday was Monday. Yesterday's episode is still pretty much holds pretty much weight on where we are today. We're essentially in the same exact position. We have had some short-term moves that Max can cover here as well, some of the order flow and open interest, as far as any short-term trades that have already kind of taken place, which we noted yesterday as well. But aside from that, let's kind of take a peek, just at a glance here, right? So one major area that we've been looking for was this quarterly key level, which at the time was untapped, which is essentially where we've made our high so far, give or take. We've had a few wicks above to about 21,000. 20,100 was a major area we were looking to claim for the movement upward to that region. At this point, we've got a yearly key level that comes in here. So this is a year's worth of price action, a major average in price that's really been getting the business right here, right? So you can see how we dipped below that, hit the EQ of the range, came back tested the 12-month. And right now we're still, getting a little pullback from there. If you were looking at this in a sense of a pennant or a flag, you'd be looking at this as maybe some bullish continuation. For me, realistically, it's all about clearing this quarterly key level, 20,918 on a closing basis. So at least starting to see some 4 hours close above that. And then from there, I would imagine we'd take a challenge up into the range high, basically about 22K. So one thing to note, though, if we start losing this level, giving it up, it's a new month, right? So we've got a new monthly pivot right here, high statistical target. Very, very rarely do we not hit this pretty, well within the next month, right? So that is something to keep in mind. So that's down here at about 19,860. We've also got the overall golden pocket here from low to high. Whereas depending on how you want to pull that, you can honestly line up a little local golden pocket, right, from the recent just push that lines with the untapped monthly at the moment. So wouldn't necessarily be anything major, just this golden pocket in its own, but that's this untapped monthly is going to play a role, right? It's probably at least going to offer up a decent bounce opportunity if we come down to this region. Losing that, however, you got the overall golden pocket point of control from this entire range all the way back to June 12th. And that would be definitely an area of interest, among other reasons. And I think Magic has covered that yesterday. If not, we definitely have covered it in the group. So that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Max, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. I'll just go over some of what's occurred today, shall I? So let's go into the chart. Put mine up. Okay, so the trade that we mentioned yesterday played out pretty nicely. I actually took profits. If I actually don't have the view up on here, let me go find it. What's time frame view up? I actually took, this is the daily view up, and also it's the weekly as well. That's why it's like a greeny color, because that's blue and yellow added together. So this is where I took profits yesterday on the trade that we mentioned in the stream. And it played out pretty nicely. It went right up to the higher golden pocket above. Now up here, it was some interesting PA, because obviously I was looking for the golden pocket, but you also had the previous year's pivot here. You also had the current range, which is obviously above 20K range. Point of control there. Magic actually did point this out in the group after we rejected that. But yeah, you had quite a few things in that area to signal to look for shorts in this region. Now, if I go into the lower term timeframes, let's zoom in a little bit, you can see that when we came up to the golden pocket, we didn't reject as sharply as one would expect. You came up, put another high in, another one here, and then the third one was actually a swing failure pattern. So let's go into the order flow and have a look at it. Just quickly though, the trend up that we had relatively stagnant open interest, which it isn't the strongest. The fact that the open interest wasn't really increasing with the move shows that it wasn't a strong one. The fact that if you zoom in, you did in this section of the chart get some increase in open interest along with a very small increase in delta, has to be said. But another clear sign that one could look for to take the short from this golden pocket region was the fact that the move up into it, you had a huge spike in volume and a clear drop in open interest, which shows you that it's not buyers. Basically, price has been pushed to an area where to effectively get rid of a load of, well, in this case, shorters on the chart. And that's what it did. They pushed the price up, and then you had a huge, I wouldn't say liquidation run, as we don't have any racked up here, but a huge amount of stop losses hit as traders pretty much are forced out of their positions. But you never really had, in this first run up to the golden pocket, a very clear entry to take a short. So it was a difficult short if you were taking it initially using order flow. Now, where you could have got in was, of course, the swing failure pattern, which was much easier to spot. The reason being, well, it started off the move up to take the highs. And of course, with the fact you've got three highs here, one can draw like a liquidity box above it and know that anyone that's gone short here most likely has their stop losses just above the high. And you can spot here that you have had, with negative delta and increase in open interest, you have had some shorts enter. There's also a nice million that joined the pie. But the move up initially did look good. You had increasing open interest, 5 million positive delta, but in the candle that took the highs, you're not getting any of that. You're getting somewhat stale open interest. It's only 500,000, 5.6 million, which is less than the previous candle, which is always something to look for when pondering if a trade is going to, a breakout trade in particular, is going to succeed or not. Reason being is, well, you have to have volume, delta, and open interest, the holy trinity of order flow, all work in harmony to push a breakout in its favor. And the fact you didn't get that in this candle and a very large wick to the upside. So the wick is on the left-hand side. This is the candle body here, this solid block, and the wick is the red line. The fact you didn't get that, the wick above, and as you came back down and closed, you can see you had some selling imbalances taking place. So there was really your entry trigger for the short. You did also come back up and retest effectively the swing failure pattern area where it started in this section of the chart here. So you were given arguably one really good entry and one it was okay. You did have some absorption take place up there as well. But that was one way you could have got into a short. The second way was when you identified, okay, we've got and this is really on a low-term time frame trading strategy, I guess. It's looking at low time frame ranges, and you can look in this section of the chart, okay, and pretty much identify there would have been many longs that entered up here, and yeah, a lot of shorts. Well, not a lot. There wasn't. The volume was pretty dead, so that has to be taken into consideration. But as soon as you lost the VWAP and you came back up, you couldn't get back into this mini trading range that we had for me all morning, for the Americans all night. So you couldn't get back into the trading range. And the VWAP kind of signaled, the low of the range, and then here the area we couldn't break back into. So you had another signal here that the market makers weren't going to let the traders that had entered out. They were going to clearly punish them as they did. Now, where did we move to as we lost the daily open? Well, you moved to the lower golden pocket, which was from the low made yesterday, and you moved, let me just hide this fixed range because it's going to get on my nerves. And you moved down to, I'm going to go on hourly, I'll go to 15. And you moved down to the golden pocket and the previous day naked point control. Now, I said in the group earlier that the conservative entry for this trade is the Asia low that was made earlier this morning. The Asia low, funnily enough, comes in pretty much exactly the same spot that I think it was the London low came in yesterday. It might have been the London low or the Asian low again yesterday. And that was what helped signal our trade to the VWAP. Now, if we have a look at where the VWAP is right now, let me go find it again. Here it is. The VWAP is right up there at 20,523. So a little bit higher than it was yesterday. But I would ultimately, if we did claim this Asia low, be looking to the daily open for a trade. Now, have we had entry triggers on this long, sorry? I have. You've seen somewhat stagnant open interest, very high delta, and a reasonably high negative delta. It shows some positions were changing hands in this candle. Next candle, you had your buying imbalances, increasing open interest. That was the entry trigger for me. We also had on the scalp bay template a very, very, very clear delta switch up. So here you can see the delta was relatively negative. You had it was all negative, but you didn't have any positive candles here until you hit the previous day point of control, in which case you had the delta switch up and you had your high percentages, which is your entry trigger. So aiming for the daily open, that is my first take profit on this trade. So hoping it comes, and it is looking somewhat likely. You've not had really any fight against it. Even on this where you've declined here, there was not really any shorting interest. It was possibly just some longs trying to exit out in case they scared for a drop lower as you came back below the low. But yeah, other than that, it looks pretty set to hit the daily open right now. Not really much else to say from there, because when you're at the daily open, you're kind of in the middle of the trading range. It's not really going to offer you anything in there. So not going to be looking to short it, but certainly we'll be using it as a take profit, because you can very easily reject that. Now, if you do reject that, I would personally be looking to come into at least this liquidity pool here that will be, below this low. Now, if you lose that, then you're looking to the monthly pivot, which CVO mentioned, as well as the liquidity pool that will be down there. This monthly is an old one, but it has been very relevant for me. I don't like to delete monthly ones, even though it's been washed through here. The past time we came up here, it was really, it's clearly been resistance there. And the last time we came up here, it was a very decent support, and it was very telling when we lost that level. So for me, I'm keeping it on my chart for now, but the monthly pivot is just below there, so it has to be it's more of a box area, including this liquidity area of these lows here. So that's really all I'm looking at for now. Shorts, I'm not really looking at any. The short was up here. If you're going to want to short, well, really, the next short I'd want is higher, whether you're looking at the Q4 pivot or the liquidity above. But if you're getting up there and living above the Q4 pivot, well, you've only wicked above there previously. So it's not like it's, if you're living above there, it's a completely different story. But yeah, I would say be looking for shorts higher up than just this high next time we were to come up there. So that's all I've got on that. Interestingly to note, one thing that wants me to really take profits rather quickly on this trade is the fact that Dixie is having a little bit of the pump on an hourly. It didn't even hit the 0.5 on its move. But if it was to continue higher here, ultimately what we were looking at yesterday is the fact that Dixie is making a lower low and a lower high. We really do want to see it reject, ideally in the golden pocket region or the 0.5, anywhere below this. It signals it's a strong downtrend. So really looking for it to reject in this regions. If we do get above it, ultimately you're looking for the highs to be taken. So for the upside on Bitcoin, you really do want to see Dixie rejecting from this point. Now, one of the reasons that the dump may be currently occurring is, we came up and actually swung failed yesterday's high on the SPX. Now, where can we look to on this chart? Well, I'm ultimately looking for the golden pocket if we are to continue this dump. And I think that would also signal us going, a little bit further into some of them liquidity pools that, mentioned just before. But the fact the swing failure pattern occurred here, that was kind of the sign that then caused Bitcoin to, pretty much dump the way that it did. Obviously, it's not a huge dump, but it pretty much was the catalyst for the drop down. And that's actually all I've got, CVO. So
nice. Always good. Got some good chat going on here. Mr. Pet Doctor, good morning. Nick Sells, got some crazy moves happened. Yep. It's always it wasn't the craziest ones, but yeah, there's always some quick ones. You gotta be ready. Debate Crypto in the house. How you doing? Mark, good morning, senor. And the Lola says, seems like the DXY's got some bearish divergence on the weekly time frame.
Are you looking at the RSI?
Yeah, well, yeah. The DXY's had bearish divergence for like the last 8 years. Not really, but it definitely does. I mean, when that starts to come down, it'll come down. It's just getting that stop is the question, right? So you're not wrong in that sense. I was looking at that for quite a while. I mean, literally from like 2020, there's a solid 2 years of going into divergence popping up for the Dixie, but doesn't necessarily mean it's got to play out quite yet. So but when it does, I think that'll be a pretty good downturn for a bit. All right, let's see. Yeah. So, I mean, just kind of interesting to know, right? So we had this run up last week. We've got the FOMC meeting this week. You've got, a good amount of things below us for Bitcoin. You've got the DXY having a brief pump. You're looking at possible swing failures all over the place. I bring that up because, the market's kind of in a little bit of a standstill, and a lot of the timing seems to wrap around some of these events, right? So very important to prepare for these levels as we're coming into them, right? And here, I'll take you off there, Max. But because when, for example, if we get a quick move tomorrow out of Bitcoin, say, we get this announcement, and Bitcoin just drops very briefly down to, the untapped monthly, for example, that we just have now at like 19,680 or whatever the case is, or the golden pocket down to like all the way back down to 19,100. It'll be aligned with the news, and that could cause a lot of fear quickly that, if it's not what everybody expects, or even if it is, and the market just, has a pullback, it's like people start to just really, if you don't have your plan in place and these levels get met, it's really gonna jack you up. So these days, FOMC days are really volatile. They really end up being pretty pretty decent if you have a game plan going into it. Otherwise, you might want to sit that day out and kind of look for how things. That's pretty much what most people do, I think, is that it's kind of like let the dust settle. If you're not going to be at the computer and actively engaged, it's definitely a wild west type of day. Taking a look at Ethereum, however, right? So once again, just throwing up a very simple range, right? So this is a high time frame range here. We spent a lot of time around this point of control. This is also the golden pocket, right? This was our area we were looking for fresh entries. So a very good example of, just coming down, and when you get to the slow and kind of boring parts, having that game plan in place for where is, this going to take off at, what level is this going to start to flip and go on from there. If you start losing, where are you looking down to? Let's see here. I think that's September. Nope, September's there. And Q3. So this overall area right here, right, came down to from when we launched from the low, basically we're running up to $2,000. This was the area that I was interested in personally, right? Coming back down to the point of control, you've got the golden pocket. This was the fresh entry idea to, take it up and possibly rotate this range in full. From here, we're pretty much, we've ran up, we've hit our head. If you're looking at this as far as a downtrend would go, right, you still got a high, lower high, lower high. So, there's a case to be made. So once again, if you start getting a decent pullback here, many will probably anticipate that we're, going back to 10K Bitcoin and some of the, the devil's basement is what we call it for a lot of the altcoins. But if you start to kind of dissect this a little bit in some more range data, right, you actually are doing something pretty bullish here for Ethereum. So this is last month's range, or actually 2 months ago now, because we're in November, but we just broke out of the September range here. And you're getting a bit of a back test here. So something to be aware of, right? So if at the moment you are holding this as support, so technically, we could take a challenge up into this 1762 area, this untapped weekly. Only thing to be paying attention for is kind of the surroundings, right? So Bitcoin's looking a little rocky. If the DXY is getting a push, we do have this big, event coming up. So, a pullback is still pretty possible and almost likely, in my opinion. So the only thing with ETH is that you want to start seeing if we re-enter this area, aka losing pretty much where we're at, 1575, you start closing 4 hours back in this region. More than likely we're going to see, pull back. And then obviously the rest of the market is probably having a pullback as well. We have a new untapped monthly, right, as we got another monthly pivot that just printed up. The line's well right with our quarterly here, essentially, right? So you got it right at 1475. So coming down and tagging that is very likely. This is a really high statistically met target. So that's almost a given. Just the timing on when is that going to happen, right? So if we come back into this range, this is an easy trade in my opinion, down to this region or this quarterly key level. And then from there, obviously we've got point of control. Like I said, golden pocket of this whole move. Right, the line's pretty much right below the EQ, right around this point of control as well. Basically comes in around these highs. This would be, a scenario that if we see Bitcoin really take a decent move back down to like 19.1, this would be the area for ETH. But aside from that, got some speed bumps along the way. And, not to overlook the fact that we are actually holding a bit of support right now where we're at. So, just gonna have to, kind of keep in mind where we're at in the chart, right? So we got some big days coming up, and just be prepared for anything. All right, so that's a zoomed in approach there too. So I did just want to point out, we were looking at this range as well. So you got a couple different like ranges within a range, and to me, that's just the best way to kind of just lap some things and see how things are looking, because realistically there's no other real area right here at 1650 that would have like stopped the price action essentially, except for the range high right here from last quarter. So that is something to note. Realizing that the point of control of this is all the way back down here at 1331. So that's our major volume target. We got the untapped monthly and the quarterly coming in right here, 1457, give or take. Granted, if we were to come back and see that, nothing would be broken, right? You'd have your low, high or low as far as this region would go. And then you'd want to see this, push up and start making that higher high for continuation to the upside. Otherwise, these really are the next major areas that, I'm going to be concerned with if Bitcoin starts pulling back or anything in that region. So Doge, let's take a look at Doge, right? So just because it's still the flavor of the week, had a massive move, right? This is a move we were waiting on for 3 months now. Very patient, right? Got a piece of it right here, and this was a really beautiful example of setting your take profits for this exact reason, and not just entering a trade or entering a position on 10x leverage and just having no stop loss, just waiting for your liquidity, your liquidation, because you assume it's going to just run this region. Right here, we entered, first take profit, stop loss at break even, got stopped out, obviously, small win, but saved yourself from this 40% drop, right? So there was another region that we discussed pretty heavily in the group down here, which actually gave us a nice entry around this region. But the main one that we were talking about pretty publicly on Debate Crypto, on here's most often, was getting back into 0.082, right? So this was the main area. So even if you missed out on this region, which was a pretty decent move, but this was your entry area right here, right? So zooming into a 15 minute. You can see right here, right, when we re-entered the range, you got the rejection right here. So you really wanted to see that confirmation. Boom, got back in. There was your buy, stop loss below the low, and away you go, right? So major targets were these two areas. Actually, there was three at the time. There was an untapped monthly right here, so that was one. But this moved so quickly. The major area was the point of control in this weekly. Point of control being the major one, right? So this is your major volume target. We had a golden pocket aligned up with this region as well. And that was about a 70-80% move just from the range low to where we met. The question now is, are we going to continue higher? And for me, one thing to note here is that, when we're looking at swing failure patterns, which is essentially, one way to look at it is like a stop loss. People consider it like, oh, this just stopped people out, or, you look at it as a fake out, or, that it's literally coming up and taking this previous high. So anybody that's entered a short, right, in Doge over the last few days after this major rally, more than likely put their stop loss above this weekly level, which most people aren't even looking at this in the same sense. They're just looking at it as this was the previous high. So their stop loss is above there, because most likely they didn't get in there. They probably got in this little region right here, and they had a pretty decent stop loss, all the way back up here, which is 15%, 20%. It's pretty big, right? So everybody got stopped out. So now if we do run it back, that's how we're going to probably get the fuel for that, right? Essentially. So one idea here is that if you do get a pullback, you're still looking down towards this golden pocket, this daily region right here. You also now have an untapped monthly here for Doge as well, which comes down at 11 cents. Right now, we're right at this point of control. So that's about a 20% move. And then all the way down is a pretty monstrous one, right? That's 30-40%. And if you're, talking about from the actual high, we're talking about 44%. No guarantee that we have to, come all the way down to these levels. And for, one perfect example here is at the same token, what we're looking at here is you really want to claim this point of control. So at the moment, it could very well be doing that, right? So you see how we wicked here. Well, we actually shot through. Granted, you did get this wick above, which did stop anybody out on a short. But if you hold this point of control, there is a chance that we start to rotate a little bit higher here. The only issue with that to me is the fact that we did come up and take this out. So we just really want to see how this plays out. If you start losing, basically it's 14. We're already losing it now, but on a 4-hour time frame. So we got an hour and a half for this candle closes. You got the VWAP coming in right here as well. So if you lose that, you're losing your daily VWAP as well. So it wouldn't be a good look to lose 14 cents. And if that is the case, I would imagine we're at least going to come back down to the monthly, possibly all the way down to this region. And for anybody that's paying attention for a harmonic, in this case, pretty obvious one, right? Kind of popping out here when you start to see these W patterns showing up. You got a pretty bearish bat here, right? That just completed now with that move up to the D leg. So not to marry this idea, but it's, the target of this would be back down here to your B leg, which does align well with your golden pocket in that daily as well. So there's some confluence there, right? So once again, no set reason to you just think it's only going to go all the way back down here. If you're looking to, take some profits on this move up, if you did get in, definitely an area where you'd want to consider that, right? This is definitely not an area to be buying, even though you could go higher. That's definitely chasing a huge green candle. It's more probable to me that we're going to come back down a little bit. So, yeah, that's the Doge look at the moment. So, what else were we going to cover there? Since OC Pet Doctor's here, I was going to take a look at H-bar because I think I said I was going to look at that the other day and I didn't. So, all right. If you guys are enjoying this content, please be sure to give us a like, subscribe to the channel. We do this every single day, 10 a.m. Eastern. We usually are joined with Magic Internet Money as well. But, today is just a little bit of a cool, calm, collected day, pretty much the same as yesterday. Magic had somewhere to be. And then also we are going to have an additional video today at noon. So depending on where you are, like that's in about an hour and 20 minutes from right now. So 12 o'clock Eastern. And we are going to be joined by Gareth Soloway. We're going to be going over some of the Fed policy, the FOMC meeting, things of that nature. So be sure to tune in for that today at 12 p.m. Eastern. And what were we looking at, H-bar?
My price just missed my entry by my take profit by $3. $3. I put it $10 below the daily open and it missed it by $3. Absolutely raging.
Absolutely raging. Below the okay.
Yeah, so I put it $10 below the daily open, thinking, it's being smart and just front running it, and then it ran me by 3, and now it's back below the Asia loan. Typical.
My man. For H-bar, the only thing that's once again just kind of looking around at our surroundings is that if Bitcoin does get a pullback, everything else is obviously going to come with it. And H-bar is chilling right at the lows. Spent a lot of time here, which, can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. There's a lot of times you're consolidating at support and sometimes you're consolidating at support, right? Like right before you break through it. So, this to me, this, wouldn't be a leverage idea by any means, but this would definitely be something if you're looking for spot, could be an area. Maybe it's something you wait until the FOMC meeting and everything kind of blows over. But right now we're at, this is the entry, right? This is where you want to be paying attention for. You got really clear invalidation as you got the, stop loss either below the overall range low. You could put a stop loss below some of these lows right here. Once again, wouldn't be a great leverage area because this is 6 and 7% going down to these recent lows. So if you're leveraging up, that could be a really big loss. But on as far as a spot position would go, wouldn't be a big deal. And then the upside is pretty big, right? So I think that this has a really, really big potential over the next coming weeks, months. If we hold this region, one big area. And like I said, don't overlook these take profits right here. And the idea with that in a spot position would be, if you have X amount you're allocating into this idea, take 10% off here, take 10% off here, take 10, 20, 30% as you're coming up, because at one of these, you're going to get a decent pullback, right? It's not very often you just run the whole range in one shot. So at that point, you can kind of reevaluate, you can kind of re-enter with some more capital, when you get the pullback to some of these lower levels. It also protects you from if the market just completely melts down, right? So you move your stop loss up, so on and so on. But this is a big opportunity. And just to that point of control, so you got your major volume target comes in, 50% move, no leverage, no leverage sweats. That's a pretty decent opportunity. You got an untapped daily, untapped quarterly comes in up here as well, 100%, and then 120 up to that range high. So the way we've been consolidating at this low, I do think that if the move gets going, it could be pretty quick. Not as quick as Doge, where it's just like shooting straight through, but you never know at the same time. So that's why, like I say, look for some of these things that are, in a position, kind of have a plan around it, decide for yourself, obviously. Do realize that the next day or two could be a little hairy depending on what goes down. But, at this point, you've really stuck around, even with everything and anything that's going on. you've really been holding this region for over a month. So something to kind of look for. I do think there's a pretty big move coming for H bar. H bar, yeah. OC says H bar is either done or H bar done. Like either holds or it doesn't. It is that important support, correct? Perfect, awesome. Well, Max, you got anything else, man? I mean, today was just going to be a little brief update. Like I said, for anybody that missed yesterday's update, it was a little bit more in depth and in detail. Kind of covered, a little bit more of Bitcoin and things of that nature. But we're going to basically pop back on here at noon, so we didn't want to give away too much sauce. For anybody that's interested, I see somebody's asking in the chat. We do have the Leading Crypto Discord server. Where you do have access to all of our analysis, our trading setups. Max goes live. Max Magic and I, we go live, do live trading sessions 3 times a week. We have exclusive member market updates where you're going to get all this, obviously, as it's happening and unfolding, not just, trying to hopefully catch it at 10 a.m. On a weekday, Monday through Friday. We do, post constantly throughout the day and night. Everything is there available for you to kind of check while you're doing your morning, readings. And for anybody that's interested, the link is in the description to join. We do have a free section if you want to just kind of come in and check out some things, ask some people their opinions. You can ask us some questions in there and make requests as well. And then we do have a member only area also. Max, you got anything to add, buddy?
No, nothing to add, mate. Volumes just slowed down and just missed me by $3. The absolute
raging.
But no, we'll see where the volume's just really low on the move. So
yeah, it's interesting, man, to see like we said, on Thursday last week, I think it was, we were looking at, it was Thursday because we were talking about Friday, we're coming in the weekend, and it's amazing how you get these major, volatile days where, Bitcoin went from like 19K to like 21K in, a few hours basically. And then you get like a weekend or, almost a full week at this point, going into 5 days later. We basically shot, from here to here and then just have ranged it out exactly like, not exactly as predicted by any means, but just what we were talking about, where it's like you get this just sideways action up until that meeting. And I know that that's when things are going to break. So definitely an area and a time to just kind of have your game plan. For me, Bitcoin 20,900 breaks to the upside, holds. That's pretty much the key to the upside right now. You do have to anticipate anytime we're living below this 20,688. We're probably heading a little lower here. We got the untapped monthly as well, and 19,860 is that untapped monthly pivot now. Quarterly VWAP comes in around that region. You got a local golden pocket lines up there, but nothing really to ride home about. This is definitely more of a major key level, so to speak. And then you got this 19,100, which would literally shake everybody to the bone to go all the way back down to 19K again with lower highs. I think that would rock some socks. But this is the big zone right here, all the way back down to 19,100, unfortunately. But we'll see how it goes and what unfolds. Definitely set some alerts and be prepared. Like we said, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel here and come back and visit us at noon with Gareth and Magic Internet Money. Aside from that, if you do join the Discord server, like I said, there's a public area. You can come in, ask questions, make requests if you'd like to see any charts discussed on our Monday through Friday public live stream here. Otherwise, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Happy November. And Max, you didn't have any kind of vape today, so I'm proud of you, sir.
Put it
down. He's quitting.
Putting it down.
We'll see you all in the next video, everybody. Have a great day.